You are listening to Pivot Parenting, episode 188, what you're actually missing in parenting. Welcome to Pivot Parenting, the place where we recognize when your parental role needs to shift and how to do it. I'm your host and parenting expert, Heather Frazier. Hey there, how's it going? What are you up to today? November is in full swing, my friend. Holidays are upon us. It's kind of wild. It seems like September just started, and yet here we are. I am all about family time. I love being with my family, but when things aren't going well in our relationships, more time together can feel very daunting and not fun. Then we feel ashamed that we just want to be alone or avoid our kids or extended family. Then we feel even worse around them. But guess what? It doesn't actually have to be this way. I want you to come and join my Family Connection Design course. It is quite literally your step-by-step guide to making every change that needs to happen for family time to be fun again. I promise it's possible. I teach it so dialed in from what I do here on the podcast. I walk you through it with accompanying worksheets. If you want to check out this course, it's on my website at the very top. It's also on Instagram and Facebook, Heather Frazier Coaching. I discuss 5 specific topics. The first one is like an insta win. So in less than 30 minutes, you're going to learn a trick that I have never taught here on the podcast that helps you dial in and alter every single interaction. Talk about communication, love, expectations, all of the things that I see parents struggle with the most. And the topics come with worksheets to dive deep. Plus, I offer a monthly office hours call where you can come and troubleshoot with me live the sticky points that aren't quite working or that don't make sense or where you're getting hung up. It's only $179, which is crazy that it's a monthly coaching call and all of that information. Seriously, you don't want to miss it. Again, on my website or social media. And it ties in perfectly to what we're talking about today. Because in every single topic that I go through, there's misconceptions and things that we think are important as parents, but we're actually kind of missing the point. And today, Sally is going to be our pretend parent. Sometimes, you guys, I just like to mix it up a little bit. So I know that I've done kind of a pretend parent that's sort of a modge podge of a lot of things that I see. That's a fun way to spin it sometimes. So that's what I'm going with today. Sally has 3 kids. Her first son does all the things she wishes he wouldn't. He vapes, skips school, breaks every phone rule. She found weed in his room the other day, swears at her, and refuses to go to therapy or take any kind of medication. He's always accusing her of being the problem, and he thinks he's all grown up as a senior at 18. Her daughter, on the other hand, does everything perfectly. She's anxious to please her mother, super sensitive to her mother's opinions and of her and her performance. She does really well in school and strives for 4.0. She obeys to a T, neat as a pin, really hung up on all the details of getting everything just right. She seeks her mother's opinion and advice almost to a fault, tells her everything, tries to always be positive and helpful. Adults love her and praise her attitude and maturity all the time, even though she's only 14. Sally's confused as to how she has 2 seemingly opposite children, even though she's the same mother for both. She sees her son as a problem, doomed future, disrespectful, and in need of a lot of help. She sees her daughter as ideal, doing well, with a bright future and a pure delight. Then there's her 16-year-old. She's confused by him because he just sort of does his thing. He's happy and helpful, and sometimes he's upset and distant. Sometimes he goes out with friends, sometimes he holes up in his room. His grades are average, and he sends mixed messages to her, sometimes wanting help and confiding, sometimes recluse or defiant. He's done a few things, like find porn and try some substances, but isn't really into either to like a troubling point as far as she can tell. He seems to be honest about it when they have conversations, and he was actually the one to volunteer the information in the first place that he had experimented in these things. She's not sure what to make of him and tends to be perplexed as to get his future and how to feel towards him. She just doesn't know how to make it out. He's a good kid, and that's about as far as she can get. So, how does one mother have 3 very different kids? And how does she know if they'll have a happy life and if she's done a good job raising them, if she can be proud of herself, consider herself a success? There's an old phrase, seeing is believing, and that's why Sally feels so confused. She's buying into this common misconception that what we see is what we should believe. So let me ask you this. Which kid would you put your money on to have a successful, happy life? Son number 1, the daughter. Son number 2. Here's what I think. I would bank on the second son. And here's why. First son and daughter are both struggling just in opposing ways. Rebellion and experimentation is an outward struggle, and it's what we all think of when we hear the term struggling teen being used. But daughter is struggling as well, and with unhealthy strategies too, but they're just hidden, they're covert, they're sneaky. She's imploding, not exploding. This is also really common, but more missed than the blatantly obvious outward rebellion. She's got perfectionism dialed in. Kids like this may turn to cutting, eating disorders, or private substance or porn use to cope. Perfect on the outside, having a hard time on the inside. This will set her daughter up for poor self-worth and sense of self, not speaking up for her needs or healing her wounds and growing because she has to put on the perfect show, which means, of course, everything is fine. She's fine. And because she's the easy, happy kid and never says anything, she becomes an easy target for future abusive relationships. So Sally's looking with her eyes at phone, whether they're what they're doing with their phone, if they're following phone rules, grades, the actions of her kids, and she's taking in all of her decision-making information from what is seen and heard. And then she's parenting from that perspective. So because what she sees her daughter doing is what she wants her to be doing, she thinks she's doing great. And what first son is doing, she knows she doesn't want. She sees herself as having failed him. She sees his future as being doomed. And she's parenting from that place. But Sally's missing what's really going on. My friend, we want to think of our kids as an ocean. We see the surface and we think we get it. We see the waves hitting the rocks. We see them lapping on the side of the beach. We see the horizon. Sometimes we might see fish or birds or something on that horizon line, and we think we get it. We don't get it, especially when it's just the surface. What our eyes and ears can take in, that's the surface. If you're into the Bible, I want you to think about the Pharisees and Sadducees. They were totally hung up on what is seen and heard. You can only take so many steps on the Sabbath. Definitely don't eat certain things. Circumcision is a must. Don't hang out with losers. Don't eat without washing your hands. Definitely don't speak out against them and anything that they do wrong. They were completely oblivious to what Christ was offering them, something so much better than a checklist of do's and don'ts. He offered peace, hope, unconditional love, forgiveness, things that are below the surface of the ocean, things that are felt more than seen, although they can be seen and heard too, but that is second. Feeling the below the surface is always what comes first when it's genuine. And this is what Sally's missing. She's looking at what her kids are doing as the primary determining factor of how they're doing and how she's doing. But this is secondary information, very secondary information. So what's primary? That we all struggle and it doesn't have to be a problem, and that her kids are figuring out life in their own ways with the brain development and the abilities and the tendencies that they have. We're all just a little bit different. What else is primary? That we actually can't know the future despite our brains selling us worst case scenario as fact. Son number one might be just fine. We just don't know. We can't base our kids' future off of what they're presently doing. That our kids are complex is also primary, just like us. And they have good days and bad days, and we don't need to fix it for them, but actually show them how to navigate what is normal for our human experience. It is normal, maybe not pleasant, but normal to feel terrible sometimes and to feel good sometimes. What is primary? That performance doesn't mean goodness or badness. What if I told you that son number one also has crippling anxiety or depression and is coping just the best that he can, even though it looks terrible, and that her daughter has OCD and that she's trying to cope as best she can, but that her second son is neuronormal. But Sally's focusing on getting them to be happy from what she can see and hear, and to be the picture perfect teen so that she can also be happy. Right? People say if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. But also, I think a lot of moms adopt the phrase, if my kids aren't happy and thriving, I can't be happy. Have you ever experienced that one? But guess what? It doesn't have to work like that. Both of those are an unhealthy form of codependency. But she wants to see and hear them being happy because then she thinks that their life will be good. But she's actually missing how they feel. Have you ever looked fine on the outside and somebody says, "How are you?" And you say, "I'm good. How are you?" But like you're anything but good. That's not actually serving anybody when we all just walk around pretending. Now, I'm not saying if you're at the checkout and somebody asks you how you're doing as they scan your groceries that you should emotionally vomit all over them. There's certainly a time and a place, but fake it till we make it isn't necessarily the best approach. And it's definitely not one that we want to teach our kids when it comes to emotional health and regulation. I want you to think about some of the best and worst days of your life. What do you remember about them? Was it what you were wearing? Was it the kind of car that you had at the time? Maybe if it was a car accident. Or was it how you felt? The world of emotion is actually the world that we live in. It's how we feel. We've heard this in a lot of different places. You may not remember what they said, but you remember how people made you feel. That's because feeling is a huge, if not the most huge, part of our life. It's the feeling, right? We can be having a really good day and then we get bad news and it ruins our whole day. Or we can be having a bad day and somebody does something really kind for us and then we're having a good day. It's based off of how we feel. When we feel bad and somebody gives us a hug or does something nice for us, that feels really good. It completely changes how we see ourselves, how we see the day, how we see our child. Like the other day, I was having a hard day, and two of my girls were so kind to notice, and they helped me with dinner. And my youngest even tucked me in, and it was very sweet. And that's because of the emotional experience of our day, of our life, of our interaction. And this is where Sally needs to focus to help her kids the most, is to understand their feelings, understand her feelings, to normalizing and making peace with those feelings, learning how to navigate them. All of these things are more valuable than her kid graduating from seminary, dressing how the parents want them to dress, getting the grades that they want them to get. All of those outward things aren't the problem, I promise. Just like Christ taught us to love, to forgive, to watch our thoughts and feelings, he didn't pay attention to how many steps you should take in a day because he knew that if we get the below the surface part right, the feelings, that the seeing and the hearing, the surface, that part, it takes care of itself. It actually is a non-issue when below the surface is healthy and happy and knows what to do with all the different emotions and experiences that life throws at us. So here's my pivot for you. Let go of what you see. Dial into what you feel, what they are or may be feeling. Dial into them as much as they'll let you. And then stay there, stay under the surface until you've got a handle on that, of your thoughts and feelings and emotions, and then helping them navigate theirs as much as of interest as they have in letting you help them. And oftentimes by us figuring it out, we're just setting a good example. We don't even need to say anything directly to them. They'll catch on when we don't interact the same way with them. When we interact in a more emotionally healthy, intelligent way, they pick up on that and they learn from us. If you want the how-to of exactly how to do this, go grab my course. It will help you implement exactly what you're learning here in this episode, in every episode of the podcast. And it gives you access to coach with me each month. It's a steal. It's the best bargain ever. Go grab it on my website, heatherfraser.com. It's just at the top. And I will see you at the next office hours.
Heather is the one, an expert in the field. She knows her parenting stuff, including how confusing it can be. You've tried it all, and it's a lost cause. Crying in the closet 'cause you failed at being a mom. But think again, there's peace around the corner, and there's hope in your hands. Your kid just wants your love.